This build has completely pulled me back into Monster Hunter Wilds. Before, it was maybe a hunt or two here and there, but this build, and the gameplay style that comes with it, has me absolutely hooked. This build has two variances, from comfy and safe to something a bit more aggro. Usually tempered Gormagalas were a coin flip in terms of winning or carding out in shame, but with this, I managed to support and save my teammates on numerous occasions while still maintaining high damage, which required me to install a DPS meter just to make sure I wasn't bringing the team down with my shenanigans. And I'm honestly surprised at the results. I usually maintain the highest damage of groups, aside from one Japanese longsword user. Absolutely based. The only time this build managed to get me more middle of the pack in terms of DPS was when one or two members of my group were eating just about every single hit Gormagala was throwing out. Not that anyone really cares about how much damage you do, just a statement on how this build is a great balance of both offense and defense. Sword and Shield support builds are nothing new to Monster Hunter, but in Wilds, with the playstyle we're aiming for, this feels a bit unique. You will become the hero! For this build, I went with using Sword and Shield for the ability to perfect block, access to items while my weapon is out, and just the freedom the weapon comes with. I can easily see this build being used with Lance, Gun Lance, Greatsword, basically anything that can block, offset, or counter, because we're going to be running Diversion and using luring pods. We're going to do everything we can to keep the boss on us so everyone else is able to do damage. This requires 3 pieces of Arkveld or other pieces with a luring pelt, which leaves room for 2 other armor slots. For the comfy set, I went with Damascus Helm for wide range and divine blessing, with Guardian Arkveld gloves for weakness exploit. Chest, waist, and legs are Arkveld pieces, wide range talisman because it can be upgraded all the way to 4 ranks, giving us tons of space for other armor skills that will make healing and supporting easier. Now this set is specifically tailored to Gormagala, relying heavily on free meal and speed eating. Divine Blessing 3 is for comfort. But if you have no fear of carding on Gormagala, or maybe you're on the tempered Arkveld grind, then we can swap the head to Belengo Helm, swap legs to Dahad, and put on Agitator Talisman. This build gives you the bare necessities to support your team while going for more damage. Specifically for Gormagala, I've concluded that it is required to run free meal. Gormagala is a coin flip when it comes to SOSs. There are times where you won't need the free meal, and there's times you're going to wish you had it. As for weapon gems, on the comfy set, I'll usually run Razor Sharp, Offensive Guard, and usually Slugger or a defensive kind of jewel like Guard Up or Guard. For the aggro set, usually the same, except since I'll have higher affinity, I'll fit in a critical boost. Corrupted Mantle for both because it's just busted. If you've never used the Corrupted Mantle because it sounds scary, it does drain your health pool, but as long as you land a few attacks after donning the mantle, the drain will stop and you'll retain the attack boost. Super easy for these builds to include extra things that you'd want instead. For me, I focused on specifically attaining speed eating, wide range, and diversion. So, let's show a little gameplay, my thought process, and get into some Gormagala. When they go into Enrage, that's usually when I'll fire a luring pod. If I'm close to Gormagala, this will usually make him do his big stomp attack, which is easily avoidable and great for the rest of my team. Dodge the big blast, but the greatsword gets hit. They're pretty far away, so I'm confident they could heal on their own. The switch axe gets hit and is in danger, so now's a good time for some healing. With another blast, we get a cart. Listen, you can't save them all, especially with Gormagala. Barely dodge this delay blast, it gets a little sketchy. Things are going slightly sideways, so another luring pod just to give people room to breathe. It gets the slight opposite effect, but it's okay. Giant Stomp, easy. Into another Giant Stomp, perfect for the rest of my group. The second this frame locked into my brain, I knew all 3 teammates were in the danger zone for Gore's Blast. I'm just automatically going for the heal button at this point. One more to top them off because it's getting a bit rough. Can't see anything, so classic Gore fight. And an offset from the Greatsword user. Rare to see these in SOSs, especially with Gore Magala. So we gotta give them a shout out. Of course, always forget to change radio, so random sticker instead of healing. Pretty cool. Blurring pod for more breathing room. And Giant Stomp. Good. Another? Yep. And with that, a knockout. Amazing stuff. Plenty of time for damage from everyone. Since Gore's no longer enraged, if a player is sitting at 70 or 80% health, I'll usually just leave it. Gore's not a huge threat in the non-enraged phase. Okay, round 2. Immediately throwing out the flashy move. At this point, I'm just making sure I got a safe line to his head to hit the counter wound. It does feel bad to heal during a knockdown, but if I can heal 2 players and keep them fighting while I handle the support, it's a benefit. Also, my game says Happy-Go-Lucky is now a heavy bowgun user, and they're just a different color now. So that's pretty cool. I'm a bit far away. I cannot see who's about to get hit by this blast, so we're just going to send one out just in case. This part is my bad. I went with a healing powder. I assumed after the charge, the switch axe would have time to heal. I think if I went for a regular heal, then they would have lived. At this point in time, I should have gone for a trap. 2 carts down in a SOS is a recipe for disaster. But I forgot about the other cart. Thankfully, it's not a big deal. A knockdown finishes off the fight. Can't do much about the near one-shots, but all in all, it's a great hunt. Damage is great, hunt was successful, we did our job. I did do some Arkveld hunts with this build, but I definitely focused mainly on Gore Magala. My Arkvelds were more just disappointing. There's plenty of pause in between attacks, most of the time he's on the ground twitching, which left half the kit this build revolves around kind of just obsolete. It still does well, but you'll focus less on supporting and more just playing a regular build. I imagine this is how hunts will feel with anything that isn't a threat like Gore Magala. Hope you guys try this out. Let me know if you have any ideas on how to tweak it. I'm not an amazing build maker, but I did consult with other hunters to try and get this build optimized as best I could. Thanks for watching, thanks to the Patreon, I'll see you later.